Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be unpacking a seriously fascinating corporate machine. Look, we all know Ferrari makes incredibly fast, drop-dead gorgeous cars. But here's the thing, if you're only looking at them as just another car maker, you are completely missing the magic. Today, we're zooming out to look at Ferrari for what it really is, an elite luxury powerhouse. We're going to explore an unparalleled business model that literally defies almost every conventional rule of manufacturing and retail. Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. First, we'll hit the profitability paradox, then the economics of scarcity. After that, we'll check out the personalization profit engine, see how these cars turn into assets on wheels, and wrap up by looking ahead to the electric horizon. All right, section 1, the profitability paradox. I want to throw a question your way right off the bat. How on earth to achieve record-breaking profits while actively refusing to make more products? I mean, it sounds totally counterintuitive, right? But check this out. In 2025, Ferrari's deliveries actually dropped. They intentionally went down by 0.8% to exactly 13,640 units as they went through a big model changeover. And yet, their profits absolutely surged. How is that even possible? Well, to wrap our heads around this, we have to look at a fundamental shift in strategy. See, for your traditional mass-market automaker, excess demand is basically a production problem that needs solving. If people want more cars, what do? You build more factories, you pump out more volume, and you capture that cash. But for Ferrari, excess demand isn't a problem at all. It's a weapon. They use permanent, carefully engineered scarcity to drive desirability right through the roof. And you can see the results right here with this massive jump in 2025. Their operating profit, their EBIT, jumped 12% to a staggering 2.11 billion euros. By simply choking back the volume and pushing their product mix toward their ultra-high-end models, they actually hit their 2026 financial targets a full year early. It's wild. And this brilliantly illustrates just how untouchable this business model really is. 29.7%. That was Ferrari's operating margin in the first quarter of 2026. And get this, that margin was generated on a tiny volume of roughly 3,400 cars delivered globally in that entire period. I mean, we're talking about a profit margin you typically only see in giant software companies or pharmaceutical patent holders, not in companies that literally build physical machines. Moving on to section 2, the economics of scarcity and how they manage desire. Honestly, nothing captures this dynamic better than this quote from Enrico Galliera, Ferrari's commercial manager. He was talking about their highly anticipated Purosangue SUV, and he said, "It's no secret that we stopped taking orders. We had such an interest without delivering one single car." Just think about that for a second. Imagine having customers practically begging to hand you nearly $400,000, and your response is to just close the order books. They paused sales, forced a 2-year waiting list, and proved that they will actively choke supply just to maintain that ultimate prestige. They even went as far as putting a hard cap on the Purosangue. They basically said production for this model is strictly capped at a maximum of 20% of their overall capacity. Now, why would you limit your biggest mainstream hit? Because Ferrari insists they have to remain a sports car maker first and foremost. By capping it, they make sure their other core models stay on schedule and the brand's pure sporting exclusivity stays completely protected. Now, what's really interesting about this strategy is the psychology behind it, which we call aspirational gatekeeping. You literally cannot just walk into a dealership with a giant bag of cash and buy their rarest cars. It doesn't work that way. Ferrari actively chooses you based on your purchase history and your loyalty to the brand. It's this brilliant system of reverse selling. Because access is so heavily guarded, it triggers massive FOMO, fear of missing out, and makes the brand completely, utterly untouchable. Let's jump to section 3, the personalization engine, where we see these high-margin upgrades. Look at this breakdown. A remarkable 20% of their car revenue in 2025 came entirely from custom personalization. That's pure high-margin revenue generated simply because incredibly wealthy clients want their cars to be one of a kind. It's essentially gravy layered right on top of an already wildly expensive base vehicle. And we really see this driven by buyers of the SF90XX and the Purosangue. These clients are decking out their cars with bespoke carbon fiber details, super rare special paints, and completely tailored interiors. It just proves that the typical Ferrari client has incredibly resilient purchasing power, no matter what the broader economy is doing. They're not just buying a car off the lot, they're jacking up the content per vehicle, which violently drives up that average sale price. Which brings us to section 4, assets on wheels and appreciating value. So, within the Ferrari ecosystem, there's this ultra-exclusive tier known as the Big Five hypercars: the 288 GTO, the F40, the F50, the Enzo, and the LaFerrari. Every single one of these represented a massive technological leap and a direct pipeline to Ferrari's Formula One tech at the time. But here's the kicker. Today, these vehicles do not trade like used cars. They trade like blue-chip fine art on the secondary market. Buying one of these isn't consuming a product. It's literally acquiring an appreciating asset. To put a real number on that, let's look at an auction from January 2026. A specific Ferrari Enzo sold for a mind-blowing $17.87 million. That single sale basically tripled previous expectations for the model. And what happens here is something called a benchmark effect. One monumental, record-breaking sale like this instantly resets market expectations and essentially raises the floor valuation for the entire hypercar segment. And you know what made that specific Enzo so incredibly valuable? It wasn't red. For decades, Rosso Corsa Red has completely defined Ferrari. But today, the market is seeing this non-Rosso premium. Rare, original factory colors, like a Giallo Modena yellow or a blue Pozzi, can actually command a 30 to 100% price premium over traditional red cars on the collector market. It tells us that in a world of extreme wealth, absolute rarity and pure individuality are rewarded way more than just sticking to tradition. Finally, let's look at Section 5, the electric horizon. Their rollout schedule right now is super aggressive and honestly thrilling to watch. In 2025, we had the ramp-up of the F80 Supercar and the Amalfi, but the real test, that's coming in May 2026 with the world premiere of the Ferrari Luce. That's going to be their very first fully electric vehicle, with first deliveries aimed for late 2026. This is obviously a massive historic milestone for a company so heavily tied to the combustion engine. So the crucial point here is how they're balancing this massive transition. By 2030, Ferrari's goal is a powertrain split of 40% electric, 40% hybrid, and 20% traditional internal combustion engine. They're calling this strategy technology neutrality. They aren't just rushing out an EV to appease regulators. They're adapting to the future entirely on their own terms, making absolutely sure that their EV is a true performance upgrade first and foremost. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to chew on. Can the ultimate purist brand maintain its untouchable desire without the roar of a combustion engine? I mean, Ferrari has proven beyond a doubt that its business model is basically bulletproof when it comes to scarcity, exclusivity, and pricing power. But the Lucids is going to be the ultimate test of whether that raw, emotional desire survives the jump to battery power. It's going to be a fascinating era to watch unfold. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you're walking away with a brand new perspective on the prancing horse.